Welcome to Mining Now. I'm your host, Jared Downey. We are filming at the PDAC. Well, I should clarify, I'm in Vancouver. Our guests are at PDAC. And if you are keeping track of mining in any way, or you're just started to poke around about it, you're interested in investing in it in some way or anything like that, you will see lithium come up as a key factor in the mining industry. And in Canada, Ontario specifically, something that is generating a lot of interest and support, even at the government level. So we had to get a lithium company on. So we've got Green Technology Metals, their general manager, Matt Herbert, on the show. Very important topic, so stay with us as he sort of walks us through their process, which also provides a lot of insight into the mining industry as it is today. So, Matt, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on Mining Now.
Thanks for having us, Jared. I'm rapt that we're the lithium play that you've decided to touch base with.
Well, you're doing some interesting stuff, and also there's a lot of those Australian roots. So we have a little bit of a perspective to offer back and forth a bit. So it's going to be. I'm quite excited to do this interview. Can we just start? Maybe just give us a really quick snapshot about Green Technology Metals, and then we'll get into something kind of set up in Canada and all that sort of thing. But just give us a snapshot of the company right off the bat.
Yeah, of course. Glad to. So the company's been incorporated for approximately 12 months. It was incorporated in Western Australia. In early November, we listed on the Australian Stock Exchange. The opportunity presented itself to pick up some assets that were non-core from another Australian company called Arden. That was done, and originally it was 51% out to 80%, which is where we sit now. So Arden are our partner. They still have 20%, but we've got the 80%, and
Okay.
We find ourselves here in Ontario.
It was pretty well funded right off the bat. I think I saw that it was started off first round was 15, and I think up to 55 million and 70 million. You've really attracted a lot of support.
We've been wrapped with the support. All of our funding rounds have been oversubscribed. First funding round was 400% oversubscribed. The last funding round was 200 or 100% oversubscribed. I think that's by virtue of the assets that we have, the change in the market conditions, and last but certainly not least, we've got a really well-connected board, a board that have got the runs on the board in hard rock lithium right across the globe. So yeah. I'm sure we'll have a chat about that in just a sec.
Yeah, absolutely. So now what is the setup? Now the asset is in Ontario. And we'll get into those as well. Are you now set up in Ontario? Is your team based there? What's sort of the current setup?
Yeah, the vast majority of the team's in Ontario. In fact, we're all in Thunder Bay, which is, if you like, the center of gravity of our flagship assets and our development assets. So it means that, where the money's in the community, we are there if there's trouble or if there's safety issues or anything like that. So there's a couple of executives still in Western Australia, but, we consider ourselves, for the most part, Canadian-based now.
How about you? How long have you been with Green Technology? Were you there from the beginning?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, Luke and I sort of started up about a year ago. So, we weren't the funders, but we were the first couple of employees. So it was a really exciting time. I've come from mining with big companies, Rio Tinto and Fortescue Metals Group, and this has been just such a great challenge and a breath of fresh air.
Has it been, it's a little bit of wind at your back right now because it's not you trying to sell to the market, it's the market demanding that you bring a product to it. It's just a very, a great position for companies like yourself right now.
It is. I think the thematic is absolutely fantastic at the moment. I think that there are the obvious questions about non-Chinese supply security. We think we're well-based jurisdictionally, very safe, and we're at the crossroads of North America. So, we are enjoying pretty good support, within the company and from outside the company.
In Ontario, I talked to Luke before, and now talking to you, and I know you both have a good understanding of it. And I kind of wanted to compare the Australian setup with the Canadian, because I believe Australia has got they're a little bit ahead in actually producing lithium. Correct me if I'm wrong, in actually
Yep.
producing it. But in a lot of ways, Ontario actually has a very good setup for doing it as a renewable energy source. Because again, correct me, but I think that a lot of times in Australia, you're actually transporting the lithium through, gas powered engines, essentially a boat or whatever it is. So can you kind of set that up and why Ontario is sort of a main focus point right now?
Yeah, so that's such a good question. I guess it goes to the heart of what we're trying to achieve here. Um, Western Australia are ahead of us, there's no question. They got on the hard rock train quite early on in the piece. The problem that you've got in Western Australia was limited downstream processing. So for the most part, and again, right now, hard rock lithium, which is what Western Australia does, is probably half the market, and half that market was mined in Western Australia, mostly diesel fueled. It was then shipped to the coast or railed to the coast, and from the coast it was shipped to China for the downstream processing. From there, it went to European battery markets. So the carbon footprint of that really green lithium that was going in your electric vehicles was already pretty considerable. So opportunity came up here to pick up some assets in a jurisdiction that we really liked for various reasons. And you touched on it. I mean, here, or at least where we're based in Thunder Bay, is 95, 98% renewable, which is already super attractive. We have a Made in Ontario strategy, which for those of your listeners that are listening at the moment, there was a large deal inked in near Toronto between LG and Stellantis. That's $4.5 billion. That's for a battery facility. So it makes perfect sense that we would mine it in Ontario, do some downstream processing in Ontario, and then put it in a battery in Ontario. We think as time goes on, there'll be a premium for very green lithium. None of our financial models are based on that premium, but being based on the Great Lakes, where there's a lot of shipping and a lot of rail, this makes perfect sense for us. So there was a great opportunity there.
What's your perspective on the Indigenous communities? We'll get into your actual properties here in a moment. But have you had direct feedback already? Have you got a chance to speak with the leadership from the Indigenous communities near your claims?
We have got great support with our First Nations partners. We take the view that it's a license to operate unless there's benefit there with them and there's transparency on our side. They're simply not going to support your project. And we've seen what happens in other parts of Canada when they don't support a project. The project simply doesn't happen. So
I'm from one of those towns.
Yeah, exactly. So you can understand the importance there. So, on one hand, we're seeking to grow our resources, which we'll speak about soon. And on the other hand, just as importantly, is growing our relationships with our First Nations partners. So we couldn't be happier with where that's at the moment.
And I want to do I want to get some of that Australian background as well. Is it a similar dynamic in Australia as it would be? I mean, I guess I should clarify that you've been involved in the mining industry within Australia as well. Is that right?
I have, 20 plus years with the majors in Western Australia, so Rio Tinto, Fortescue Metals Group. And with both of those groups, we always took the view that good First Nations relationships were a license to operate, as I said before. What we're finding more and more is whereas the government used to step in and broker agreements between a private company, or at least a publicly listed company, and the First Nation, more and more they're stepping back and encouraging us to come to deals directly with those First Nation partners. The other difference, I think, would say the Pilbara, where they have determination on certain areas where there's a single group. Over here, we don't have that single area determination, which means that typically you're dealing with a couple of groups. It's an added layer of challenge, but there's also some opportunities there as well.
Right. No, it's good to hear that there is that relationship is already being established. Is it now? Is part of these deals when you're in these negotiations and having these talks? I mean, is it employment front and center? Is it the environmental side? Do they kind of going hand in hand? What sort of do you see as the primary and secondary?
Yeah, all of the above. If I can circle D, at the moment, we are about to embark on an IBA, which is the benefit agreement that you come to with your First Nations partners. In the meantime, even to drill and explore, you typically need an EEA, which is an earlier exploration agreement, or an MOU, and they would typically set out the benefit options that a group will have, and all of them are slightly different, but generically there's some milestone. If we're talking IBAs, which is a final benefit structure, there's milestone payments, there's some profit share or even revenue line share. There's jobs, there's sponsorship of community events. There's a lot that goes into it, but that's about being a good corporate partner and having a group that wants to support your project. And I think we take the view that if we get Seymour right, which is our flagship at the moment, when we move to our other projects, it's not going to be a matter of begging people to come on and showing them what we can achieve. Everybody talks, everyone communicates, and what we want is for the other First Nations groups to stick their hand up and say, we want you guys on board because you follow through with what you do. You're gracious with your benefit agreements, and that just ensures efficient construction, planning, progress, mining. So we want to be a partner of choice, and that's our challenge really for the first project.
Let's talk about the project. Seymour, you've got a couple drigs going. You've got a camp set up. Let's walk us through it. What are we looking at with your primary property now?
Yeah, Seymour's come a long way in the last 6 months. We arrived, as I said, in October out here. It was just me, and we really quickly got the permits turned around to start the drilling. So we kicked off the drill program in late November. The snow had just started to fall. I've run big drill programs in hot parts of Australia, nothing compared to this, and it was a huge learning curve. But we've been really happy with our progress over the last 6 months. For the most part, we had 2 drill rigs operating, double shifting, that's day and night each. We find ourselves now on the cusp of releasing our new resource update, which we're excited about. Seymour was 4.8 million tonnes. It was JORC compliant. We've added materially to that. So we've been super busy. But I think with the snow melting as it has now, it allows us to go out there and put boots on the ground and start to map up our next targets, opportunities. We've got a huge area. At the moment, we focused on 2 out of 70 odd targets at Seymour. So we're really excited about the next year. So I guess in paraphrasing it, this exploration season, which is the non-snowy season, we'll be drilling and mapping and generating targets. And then when the snow starts to fall in November or whatever it is, a lot of the field work stops, but the drilling continues. So
you're not going to run back to Australia for a couple of months in November, conveniently?
No, we wouldn't do that, although it has crossed my mind. It was a really tough winter. It's such an eye-opener, but the adventurous side of me absolutely loved it. It was just extraordinary time and place.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in cold weather. I grew up in cold weather, mountains and all that stuff. But then you go into certain areas, and you get out of that vehicle, and it is just something else. I don't even know what it is. It's just something else.
So we had the coldest morning that we had without wind chill was -46, and at -46, you don't turn cars off, you don't stop pumps.
No.
All of your diesel machinery needs additives, otherwise it turns to jelly. You run your exhaust up the drill mast to keep all the pulleys effectively warm and the bearings greased. It's just an extraordinary time to be drilling.
Yeah, yeah. If you have any pictures, send that to us. We'll put them up on the show during the interview.
We've got some amazing pictures for you. We'll do that.
Okay, please do. You've got a couple other projects. I don't know if they're at the project point, actually. I think there's Roots and there's Allison. Can you give us a setup on both those properties?
Yeah, absolutely. So Root, we have patents out there, so we effectively own the land. Having said that, the days of just walking onto a patent and starting to drill are gone as well. So we have a great relationship with Slate Falls and Luxstool First Nations. We have 2 drill rigs that are ready to go out there. They should be spinning in the next couple of weeks. So there is a good resource out there. It's got great proximity to the same rail line that services Seymour. So we almost look at Seymour and Root as an integrated mine site. Certainly wherever the concentrator goes, the dirt that's at the other side is going to be slightly more expensive dirt. But those are good targets out there. They're really well understood. We think there's upside. So we're really excited about getting out to Root. And then we've got Allison, and we've got a pipeline of slightly earlier stage developments. Allison's probably the most mature of that lot. It's in an amazing part of the world. It's well serviced with all-weather roads. It was discovered, or at least recommended, by a guy called Fred Breaks, who's the guru of hard rock lithium here in Ontario and the OGS. So we pegged a whole heap of land there. Our land holdings are up to 40,000 hectares. We've quadrupled them in 7 or 8 months. And as soon as we started to peg land there, other groups have come in and pegged with us. So who knows? It could be the next province. We were out there in a helicopter 2 weeks ago. I'm really impressed with what we saw.
What coming on the show, when I was again talking to Luke, is that he really wasn't, and there's some people that say this to us, but it's sort of like they actually are they're looking for funding. But I really Luke was very clear that what you're wanting to do now coming on shows like ours is because the funding has come in so strong that you really are just trying to get your message out, what you're doing, how you're doing it, and just sort of involve even the shareholders so they understand, what steps you're taking. Do you feel, is there a lot of engagement from shareholders? Do you feel, support from government and even the public? I mean, it's a different world now, especially on the lithium side. So can you just get even your own personal sense of sort of the support that projects like yours are getting?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we're in a really strange situation for a junior in that we are cashed up. We've got an excellent cash burn runway. That doesn't mean we're going to use it inefficiently. So our mandate, if you like, is a little bit different. We really want to communicate the strengths of the province, the security of the jurisdiction, the sheer funding on a provincial basis that the Ontario government has made towards this whole lithium supply chain. We want to get that message out to the public. You talk about the support, from a public and a retail investor side. Our retail side has been absolutely sensational between Bell Potter and Canaccord, and then Lithium Americas Corp. We have some of the best shareholders. Having said that, the markets have been down a little bit just in the last couple of weeks, and so we feel that like everybody else. But we try not to watch the markets too much. We control what we can, make sure that we're building the company and that we're spending money. Our conversion rate of dollars into lithium tons is efficient. Our all-in rates on our drilling is efficient. We're not blowing cash on silly side stuff. So yeah, this is just it's a plea to the market just to say, keep an eye on us. We're in a great part of the world. We've got a great deposit. We've got an excellent pipeline of news flow really over the next 6 months.
Talking to yourself, talking to Luke, looking at some of your board members, and I want to look at some of them, is a lot of them are coming out of not just the junior sector, but major mine operators like Rio Tinto and like that. So does that change sort of the focus and the approach that you're taking, as opposed to that sort of hustle and spend and that whole thing that's sort of there? I saw a video just a little while ago. This guy kind of did a spoof of the junior mining thing, and it was quite funny and in good taste. But really, green technology just doesn't have that feel. Is that because obviously the assets allows you to do that in the funding, but it must also be the management's approach as well?
It really does. So when I got approached, my first question was who's on the board, and Luke has said, we've got John Young. He's from Pilgrim Minerals. He's the founder. That's the largest independent hard rock lithium producer on earth. So he knows a thing or two about what a successful growth story looks like. We have Cam Henry, who is the founder of Primero, who's the largest lithium plant builder on earth, mainly mid or concentrator side, but certainly now down into downstream processing. We've got Pat Murphy, who is Australian director for AMCI, which is a very large private wealth fund for a couple of individuals. He's been instrumental in sourcing early funding for us. So I don't think it can be underestimated how different a junior miner looks when they're well connected. that hustle looks very, very different. Having said that, we've had the team over here for PDAC. Ken Henry is an absolute machine, doesn't stop. It just opens doors for us that it would just have been impossible otherwise. So at the board level, an incredible board. At the management level, between myself, Luke Cox, John Winterbottom, Andrew Johnston, we've really got a who's who of middle managers that have seen how the big companies do it back in Western Australia and are really just seeking to take the good parts of that and bring it over to Canada. So I've got just such high faith in this team.
What about on the operational, like you're, engaging a drilling company, your testing facilities, all that sort of stuff? Has that part gone pretty smoothly? I mean, it's a busy industry right now, so there's high demand. How have you sort of gone about, piecing your equipment together, piecing your contractors, all of that sort of thing?
Yeah, we've one of the first things I did when I moved over, and I forgot to mention him, Nathan Sims is our exploration manager, and he has been crucial in sourcing and supplying drill rigs, camps, whatever logistics it might be, permits, the whole bit since we've arrived here. So I guess harking back to the last chat, without Nathan, a lot of this wouldn't have been possible. So with his expertise, we haven't lost any days of drilling. We now have camps that are based out at Seymour. We're currently sourcing another camp for Root. We've got drill rigs lined up and ready to go. We were at Lithium America's lab in Reno, Nevada a week ago. They took I think it's about a 5% chunk of our equity, roughly $10 million cornerstone invest. And that was really, it's not binding, but we have a great relationship with them. And part of that was to get that exposure to the downstream side, which is really the only part of that integrated side that we don't have massive experience in. So, whether it's grassroots stuff or downstream stuff, we are so fortunate to have the connections we have. And it's meant that supply chain wise, we haven't really seen any delays or things haven't been hard to get.
I guess I'll finish up with this question. At the PDAC, have you, investors and shareholders and that, have you had a chance? Some of them got to step by? I mean, the last couple of years have been obviously crazy on a global scale. Have you got a chance to sort of try to meet some people that have been, at a distance, just haven't been able to connect directly with you? Has there been those types of people showing up?
Yeah, well, this is my first PDAC, and I've just been blown away by the sheer size of it, number one. But just that ability to network. Unfortunately, I haven't got to the presentations that I would have liked to have gotten to, but the amount of, no, you never do. The amount of people who have stopped by, people that I only ever knew by email or phone, the nuggets of information that I've got, whether it's power generation or early stage approvals and permitting, people just, it's been so beneficial. So we'll make sure that we're back here next year.
Yeah, very exciting. Well, I just want to say, thanks for coming on the show. I mean, it was, I don't think you could do a PDAC episode without having lithium. So I'm glad you filled that spot for us because we really want to talk about it. And green technology just seems to be sort of epitomize, I think, what the industry needs to do, and hopefully that support that you're getting continues. Obviously, there's a responsibility on your company's end, to Indigenous relations, government, local, all those things that need to happen. But I really do, if those things are all in place, I hope that sort of the mining community and local governments and all that sort of give the support that's needed, so we can start producing some of this out of Ontario.
Thanks so much for the opportunity, and I'm with you. You never work a day in your life if you like what you're doing, and at the moment we're loving what we're doing. So keep an eye on us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Matt. Good to talk to you.
Good on you. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for watching. It's a great way to, again, I don't know what order these will be released in, but it's a great way to wrap up our last episode at PDAC. Thank you for watching. Please keep suggesting guests. Please, if you see that guests are coming, we're going to try to do a little bit better on promoting who's coming on. So maybe if you have questions, you can get them into us. That would be a great thing, I think, for us in the audience. So thank you, everybody. We will see you on the next episode of Mining Now.